Aloha, everybody. We're coming to you from the big island of Hawaii, and I have a very special guest today. His name is John Float, and he has had over 30 years of experiences with dolphins and whales. He's been a captain for many years as well with the boat here on the big island, and he has experiences with birthing with dolphins and has been part of many different projects around the world doing that. So I'm very excited to have him here to talk about his stories, his life experiences, and also share his beautiful heart and being with us. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
I'm so happy we can do this together here, coming from the big island, and the view behind us, I don't know how much you can see it, is of the Honaunau area, where a beautiful Pu'uhonua is, which is a refuge place where you can feel deep, deep peace. And the intention of the place is also compassion and forgiveness. So John has magically got land above the Pu'uhonua where you can really feel the peace here as well. So would you like to say something about the connection of your land to that spot?
Boy, I've had a connection from Hawaii since I was a teenager. We came here on a holiday to Waikiki, and I surfed for 2 weeks, and I said, I have to live here, so as fate would have it, I had to go to college and all that, and always a dream to come here, and so I was living in an ashram actually in my 20s for 10 years, and we had moved from the ashram to Maui, where a friend of mine who was also in the ashram had, his wife and he were giving birth at home. And so that was my time in Maui. And then a woman, kind of the Queen's homeopath, I call her, because she was a healer, and I set up a clinic for her at the ashram. She visited us on the day of the birth because she was, helping Tara to, just program the birth. And she gave me a reading, a psychic reading, and said, you'd be a good osteopath, go to England and study. So I did. And wonderful training, and trained in many things over there. I mean, it was a center for the world to come through. And anyway, I ended up getting my osteopathic degree, and one of the places I worked was a birthing center, Jairani Birthing Center, run by a Sri Lankan obstetrician. And eventually 6 women came forward that wanted to give birth with the dolphins. So we set that up in the Red Sea, and that changed my life. It's beautiful kind of plexiglass tub set in the Red Sea with dolphins swimming around it. And every morning we would, swim with the dolphins and get sonar. The dolphins would, sonar the baby. They know there's a baby in there, and it would amplify the DNA. And, in the afternoons we'd have sessions of osteopathic and cranial work, Alexander technique, which I also taught, hypnotherapy, reflexology, massage, you name it. We had that to help the women prepare for an easy birth, and then they all gave birth in the water. Yeah, so after that project, I moved back to the Big Island. As fate would have it, I met my partner, Joan, who at the time, we were together for 7 years and did swam out every morning from 6 o'clock to about 11, swimming with the dolphins. This is before it became really popular. And, that was our life, that and traveling, to Canary Islands or Dominican Republic to swim with the whales, right? So, so that birthing project really catapulted me back to Hawaii, back to home. And where I've been living 30 years, it's a sacred place here. The dolphins are here year-round. So we've been swimming with them pretty much nonstop all these years, till it was outlawed 2 years ago. And so now it's not like it was, but we've kind of internalized the dolphin frequencies and vibrations, and just carry them in our hearts. And we get in the water with them too, and they come over to greet us. We just can't follow them all morning like we used to do. Play with them, play the leaf game, for instance. They love to drop leaves in front of us and then challenge us to get it. And sometimes they sweep in front of us and get it. And sometimes we get it and pass it back and forth during the morning. So they love that game, actually.
Okay, so you gave me many different pieces of the story that I'd like to know more about. I want to mention that in a recent interview that I had with Katarina from Slovakia, she asked me about, have I had any experiences with dolphin births? And I said, no, I've heard stories about it, but it's not that easy to find people that have actually done it. So when you started talking about it a few days ago, I was like, finally somebody that can actually give me some, real information about how it's done, what are the practicals, do's and don'ts, and how does it all work? Because a lot of people have the internal call to do something similar. I would say dolphin birth is kind of in the collective memory as something that can be done, but there's not many people that had much experience with it. So when you described the project in Israel in the early 90s, so that was a short-term project that you did for a few years, and now it's not there anymore.
Well, it was a month that we were there.
Okay.
That area called, I don't know if I should mention it, but it's a dolphin area. That was ongoing for some years, and they did a lot of different therapies there with cerebral palsy and schizophrenics, and a lot of dolphin therapy, similar, I imagine, to what they're doing in Florida at Dolphin Research Center. But yeah, so it was ongoing.
Dolphins in captivity, but they're left in the ocean, from what I understand.
Right, that's right. And it was a big area, really well run. They were all rescue dolphins from nets and stuff like that. Mainly bottlenose, but there was one spinner. Yeah, so that was and it was run kind of like an ashram, really. It was such a spiritual approach to it, even though it was, they did performances and stuff like that. But there were also a tight-knit family, and they were doing interesting projects like cloning coral, growing coral. I thought it was kind of an interesting project.
So when you came with your team for a month, did you then agree with them, oh, we're doing specifically dolphin birthing here?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it was all pre-planned, yeah.
Okay.
And the BBC was going to actually run it.
Oh, wow.
But then they pulled out the last minute, for whatever reason. I don't know. It's a pretty controversial thing, and that's what we ran into with the health ministry there and friends when I spoke at a dolphin research and education conference in Paris. At the end of the 90s, I met some people from Belgium that were also doing that, trying to do that wild dolphin birthing in Brazil. Okay. And they were shut down by the health ministry there too. So they wanted to carry on with that kind of project. So we went to Tonga. This was 99 to try to find a suitable place to have a dolphin birthing center, but it ended up being too far for Europeans to get to, like in flying in the last trimester and things like that, So it didn't work out, but we had a good time.
Yeah, so when people ask me about it, I'd say, well, there's a few challenges from my perspective, of wild dolphins wouldn't really necessarily stay in the same place where you were giving birth. So that's the first thing. And then the second is just the challenge of giving birth in the ocean. which, maybe the temperature is not perfect, and with the waves and the sun, and if the birthing is going on for many hours, maybe that's not ideal place either. So I always tell people, well, I know the idea is amazing, but there's a lot of things that you need to think about that aren't that easy, and
Absolutely.
ease and comfort are important with the birthing, so you're not, stretched out of,
right,
your comfort zone with things that don't need to be.
Sure.
So you said when you did it in Israel, there was actually a plexiglass tap in the water.
Yeah, it was clean, filtered, warm water. So there was no chance of in the water here, in most saltwater situations, there's staph on the beaches, staphylococcus. So that's a very deadly thing for a newborn because they have no immune system, right? So not just that, but then the dolphins aren't always there. Sometimes they're swimming out in the middle of the bay, for instance, and they're not going to really be interested. And that's what, they respect us, they're our process too, and in a loving way. So that's what we found in sharks too, obviously blood in the water, and waves getting in and out of the water. Here it's not so easy. It's not a sandy bottom and easy access all the time with the lava rocks and that. And what I've learned, is that the preparation is the most important part, right? That swimming with the dolphins and getting their frequencies into the fetus is that's the kind of the main point, right? Water, being in the water, is just a tool. A lot of women worked with the active birth people in London too. It gives the power back to the mom to give birth how she intuitively knows how to give birth, right? So that might be on all fours, it might be squatting, it might be, who knows, it might be in water, it might be some of the time or all of the time. Everybody has a different idea of how they want to give birth, but when it actually comes down to the moment of birth, a lot of variables arise, right? So you have to be totally present and, in a way that is totally supportive, and you can't have these distractions and things like that to cloud the issue. So, the preparation is most important. And, so I've, if you can do it in the water, that's a bonus, but, 2 out of a million do that, right? Successfully. But it has been done, and it has been done here in the 90s, right? I think it's important to have a good midwife, somebody to help guide you and to get body work so that all your hormones are flowing, all your muscular balance is centered so that you're not impeding the dilation and the ease of the birth. Obviously, hypnotherapy and kind of programming your mind to access, alpha or theta states is really beneficial so that you have control over your mind and body. So there's a lot of preparation that needs to take place, and so, I'm not kind of decrying water births in the ocean, that's fine, but it's you have to prepare for anything and everything and do the right thing in the moment to have it be successful. So we had a team of, like I said, 6 or 8 modalities to help prepare the birth so that the woman was at her maximum ease,
So in Israel, did that birth happen then with dolphins being around?
Well, the dolphins, like I say, they respect everybody. And so they were around when we'd swim with them, for sure. But during the actual birth, they weren't most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, some of it happened at night, some of it happened in the day, you know, so they're just very respectful. I'm sure they knew what was going on, and they can read you from a mile away, know what you're thinking and feeling, and read you like an X-ray, your energy body and, you know, physical body. So they were not invasive at all, you know. So it's like when they give birth, it's very rare to actually see a dolphin or whale birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to go off by themselves. So do we, you know, pretty much, unless you're in the hospital, you know.
I like how what you mentioned is kind of the same answer I was giving to people. I was saying to them, well, the best recommendation I would give is to swim with dolphins while you're pregnant, to soak in the frequencies and have it be a dolphin birth. You can call them etherically when you're giving birth, to just swim around in that space with you. And if you swim with them, your body is really remembering that vibration. So when you call them in, you're giving a dolphin birth, you know, even if they're not physically there.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of people come with a lot of different agendas here on this island to swim with the dolphins, right? And a lot of people get like addicted to them. You know, they can't live a day without them without being depressed, which is not the point, right? The point is to find those frequencies within yourself and manifest those, because they're just here as ourselves. They're our future selves. They've been here for millions of years, and they're like demonstrating who we are, what we could be, you know, and they're transmitting that to us, so we have that experience. And, you know, if we're savvy enough, we can kind of download those frequencies and you know, use them in our lives every day.
So when you say there are future selves, you're saying because they've been here so long and had an evolution go that much farther, they're showing us a potential of what happens when you choose this life of joy and alignment.
Totally, totally, yeah.
Okay.
So you know, yeah, I always say they're our future selves, what we could be. So yeah, it's just been here and evolved to that point, and are here in service to help us evolve. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. I mean, I've never seen, you know, people come away with anything except kind of ecstasy and joy when swimming with them, right? It's like, that's what they carry in their being, their vibration, and that's what comes across, you know, being with them. And so then it's just a matter of accessing that, which we can do just by recalling it, just by going to that place. It's like a meditation. And so not to be dependent on them, but just to join them, you know. To me, I've always been a sailor since, you know, I taught sailing in high school and that, and camps and stuff like that. So I did get a boat and a Zodiac that I could easily look over the side with my mask and see the whales under the boat, or put a GoPro down or whatever, you know, or just call them in and see them right next to the boat when they come up and spy up, or just come up and swim around the boat, circles around. Yeah, so to me, to be here in an ocean environment, an island lifestyle, and not have a boat is just kind of, I wouldn't ever entertain that. You know, it's just so nice to be in the ocean and be in the space, the blue. You never know what you're going to see, and there's always exciting encounters. You know, I could be out there 5 miles, not see anything, and all of a sudden, a monk seal, endangered monk seal, pop up with a fish in his mouth and come over and want to share his fish with me.
Lunchtime.
Or you see butterflies out there 10 miles out, right? I mean, things like that, you know. It's pretty cool. And sometimes it's just like glass, you know, and then, you know, just be out there and turn off the engine, and all of a sudden, a pod of pilot whales would come by, and so we'll hang out with the pilot whales. Or last year it was a sperm whale, so anything can happen any time out there. So it's just the ocean is holding like a collective, deep unconscious. So anything can just surface and interact with us, or we interact with them.
And what are some of the most memorable things that happened to you in the last 30 years?
I mean, I've always had a connection with the whales since I was a young boy. And in high school, I used to actually go to bed with the music of humpback whales. That was my kind of serenade into the dream time. And so it was within the first month that I moved here. We were living down in Kealakekua Bay. And about 6 in the morning, we hear this, what was that, And then tweaked down and said it was a whale breathing, because they come up and breathe. And so we quickly got our gear on and got out, and we're right on the shore in this kind of lava amphitheater that we discovered a mom and baby had just given birth to a baby humpback. And so it was just incredible because we were there just feet away, and just for 3 hours while this whale was just nursing and kind of communing with her newborn, right? So we joined in as part of that family. And so it was just quite an incredible encounter. Really, I don't think anything has matched it. I mean, we've had great encounters since, but that was one of the peak ones, one of the top 10, so to speak. And when it came time to leave, the whale, was just coming out of this lava. It's called a kind of amphitheater, kind of a little area, and coming right at us. And they're big, big, and their pectoral fins are big. And so this whale came by, and he could have just, there wasn't much room to even back up, right? But she took her wing and just right over our head, just kind of brushed us. Kind of a blessing.
Blessed by the whale.
Yeah. So that was one of a cool introduction to the whale, the power of the whale, and of course we were just vibrating for a week after that, because they're downloading, they're like a whole pod of 100 whales or 100 dolphins or 200 or 300 in one body. Is the way I look at it. They're holding so many different vibrational frequencies, everything from John Coltrane or Charlie Parker playing alto sax to the Yuma monks with this blubberous thunder that just kind of vibrates every cell of your being, right? And so it breaks your heart open, just expands it to, the cosmic kind of infinitude of love.
Yeah, it's so hard to describe the intensity of the moment. There's so many states of being and our heart and the pineal, and there's so many parts of us responding that we don't get to experience in a day-to-day interaction. So whenever I try and describe what happens in the water with the whale, it's so many levels removed from what we usually talk about. It's really hard to say to somebody that hasn't had anything similar. The closest, I guess, is describing how people feel when they come to some realized being in India, or some very powerful spiritual master, and they felt parts of them activating they didn't even know they had. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's like definitely like that. I mean, they're like they've been around, like I say, for millions of years, and you just I don't know if some of my meditations, and I've done like 10-day silent retreats in the dark, right? And so if they do that, they go down to the deep ocean and just hang out there in total darkness, right? And silence, and and it's uninterrupted, for them. It's like, that's their natural environment. And so so they're accessing incredible, not only experiences, but just a whole range of frequencies that people on Earth aren't privy to. I mean, John Lilly says that dolphins and whales especially are the highest vibration on the planet, right? And they're keeping the planet in balance. And so they share that with us. And
so from your perspective, then, we do this sync to the whales, where we gather and we sing either in person or we've been doing it online as well, where we share the sound, our song from the heart for the whales, and have them respond and be that kind of a communication that happens through sound. Do you have anything that you'd like to share about your experiences with sound and the whales? And
well, yeah, I mean, with the dolphins, that's our secret ingredient, really, is singing to them, because that attracts them, and they feel our love, and they're vibrating on love, so they're just naturally attracted to more love, right? And so when they hear us singing, they're very forgiving, really. You don't have to have a great voice or anything, you just come from your heart. And they'll come. It's quite uncanny. So I mean, I do a chant every time I go out to swim in the boat with the dolphins and whales. And so one day I took this kind of producer out, and the concierge from a high-end resort, and to see the whales. That was what he wanted to do. So the whale swam up to the boat, swam under the boat, and was going away. And so I wanted more interaction. So I started doing this chant, and the whale from 100 yards away, it turned around and came back to us. So that happens a lot. And I could come up on a whale. This is one that happened in the Dominican Republic. He was down about 150 feet, or she, and sleeping on the bottom. So I always sound when I'm going out to let them know that where I am. So I have a target to come to. And then I just started really deep breathing. And the whale woke up and just started this long, slow spiral right up in front of me. And so, you don't have to sing loud. You can have an inner song going too. A silent song, a soul song, that can attract them too. So even though, you hear a lot of people out there trying to imitate dolphins and that. And
that's that. For me, that was amazing discovery. It's not about the quality of the sound. It's not about producing the same sounds as them. It's more about how that song is connected to the heart, and in what way it's carrying the emotion, the energy, and the signature of who you are.
Exactly.
So the frequency is already there inside you, and the sound just carries that frequency out to meet them. And like you said, it can be silent, which is very interesting when whales respond to something that's only happened inside you, and then they let you know that they actually heard it, that they actually felt it. And that's always such a trip. Yeah. But you said you did sing a special chant?
Well, it's a Hawaiian chant that I just think it's a blessing chant, asking for their presence. That's here in Hawaii, whenever you go into a situation, you ask permission, right, to come in, because there's spirits that inhabit everything from a rock to a tree to, and you can't disturb them or your life goes south, right? You're bad, right? So we always make that connection psychically ahead of time, so that they're in our hearts, we're in their hearts, and it's just the adventure of coming together.
Would you mind sharing that chant right
Sure, I could do. It's called Eho Mai, and it means come be with us and sing through our heart song. It's asking all the seen and unseen to bless and guide us. Eho mai kaiki mai luna mai e una mea una nui au una mele Eho mai Eho mai Eho mai Eho mai. Yeah, so I would never think of going out in the ocean without singing that.
Wow. And you can really feel it. Like I felt all these goosebumps coming down the back of my head and my back. So yeah, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
If I was a whale, I would come check it out. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, the whales are always different. I mean, throughout the season, they go through their season. They come here to mate and calve, give birth. And so, in the beginning of the season, there's a lot of testosterone in the water. So we get a lot of breaching competition and heat runs where, you have anywhere from 4 or 5 up to more than a dozen whales in pursuit of a female, sometimes with a calf in tow. I've seen 2 big bull males come and split the barnacles all over, scraping their chins on each other, bloody, really fierce competition, right? So, and I've seen them, just before the act of birth, where they're just totally oblivious to anything, just totally ecstatic and pumped full of hormones of joy hormones. Yeah. So they go through a lot, and with babies, and the moms are teaching them all their survival skills. So that's exciting to watch. And then they, once they're weaned a little bit and have a little more independence after 4 to 6 weeks, they introduce them to us, and they come over and swim right next to the boat. And,
That's one of my favorite things is mama whale pushing the baby or bringing it to the human, saying,
yeah.
meet the human.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing, that they would have so much trust in us.
Yeah.
When barely 40 or 50 years ago, people are still killing them. So
Yeah.
to me, that's so humbling and so beautiful.
Amazing how forgiving they are. They can look at their, the whaler in the eye as they're being harpooned and, still, be loving in a way, give themselves. Yeah, I mean, they're powerful. They could, with one swipe, they could just, eliminate you, break your bones or whatever. And they know exactly where their bodies are and where your body is, and they don't make contact. I mean, so we don't reach out to touch them. Even the dolphins, we have that respect and that honoring of their sacredness. And if they want to touch us, they will. And we can't do much about that, but it's always a loving touch. And,
mm-hmm. Hmm. So, to somebody that is somewhere in Europe, maybe a cold place, maybe a place without the ocean, what would your message be going out from here? Because they would say, oh, it's easy for you to say living in Hawaii. Was there something you'd like to share to people that are somewhere far away?
Yeah. I mean, the dolphins have always been multidimensional beings, right? And so a lot of people, have the desire, strong desire, and, to be with them physically, and that's doable everywhere in the world. I mean, everywhere I go, once you've met the dolphins, you can see them in the wild. They're just there, and they appear. It's like you've got a dolphin calling card in your DNA or something. So, they just show up in the least expected places, And and there's a lot of so that's a physical. Then they have the metaphysical, where they've been. We went to Egypt, we saw the hieroglyphs, and they had the dolphins there. Or you go to Knossos in Crete, and they've got dolphin temples and Delphi, and so they've been around forever, and so they've got this mythological dimension too that you can access. And there's landlocked tribes, the Mali, Gadogan in Mali, that have their dolphin totems, and are connected to the dolphin wisdom and frequencies that are, that they're drawing from off planet, from Sirius and Pleiades and Arcturus, and so there's many ways to connect with them, and a lot of people see them in dream time. They've never been to the ocean, and they have these dolphin dreams, right? Close encounters, right? So I think as long as you direct your mind to that, what your intention is, that it'll show up in the perfect way, spontaneously. So that's how it happened for me. I just had that strong desire, and throughout my life, it's just manifested more and more and more. And I really haven't had much to say about it. It's just those opportunities arose, and then I just said yes. Yeah. I think that's this.
I've been saying that lately. Things that need to happen in the physical will find a way to happen in the physical.
Right.
And there's some that don't need to, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have our own journey of traveling through life and meeting our synchronicities and what we're supposed to be doing here. With dolphins and whales, I always say, well, they carry a piece of our soul, like a petal, a flower that has many petals, and one of these petals becomes part of the dolphins and whales. So they're reminding us of this core frequency of who we are, what are we doing here. So even if you don't see them, you can still work with their energy, their frequencies, and their sounds.
Yeah, and I mean, they're operating on a kind of a collective universal wisdom, right? And so are other animals. Almost every animal, really, So, you can have that with elephants. You can connect with horses, and which I've done both of those. And, there's a sentient kind of recognition there going on that's, and a transmission with those animals too. So it's not unique to dolphins and whales, even though they're carrying a really sublime, frequency that they're sharing with us. But however you connect to a soul level of being is the important thing, and when you do that, you'll be able to call the whales or dolphins, and then they'll be there energetically. And that's the important thing, I think. It's not that I have to be in the water with them now, to be happy. It's like you can find that happiness inside just by connecting to your deeper self. And that's connecting to their, they're there too. It's like everybody's there. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah.
And then sometimes it's going to happen that you're going to have a very clear vision or a dream where you have to come be with them in the physical. And that's exciting.
Yeah, the calling is the calling, and then, certainly we've had that, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because it's like, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
to me, it's like meeting family.
Yeah.
That you don't live necessarily in the same place, but when you can meet with your family, or you're very happy, that it's like a reunion feeling, and so much love and joy when that happens in the water.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, the gurus, like, they're a being, and they don't have egos. They're not, conditioned like humans. And so the transmission that goes on is like being with a realized master. It's like you are awakened to the totality, the oneness, the unified field, or however you want to describe it. There's many different ways of framing it, but that experience of being with them and what it opens up in your cellular memory is quite just mind-boggling, mind-blowing, beyond words, like all that, and you just feel it. And every cell of your body feels it, and it's kind of, lit up. And that's what we found with these babies. They had that dolphin frequency from swimming with them, and so when they came out, they were just lit up. Their ESP quotient was like off the charts. They were connected to everything and everybody.
So you're circling back to the dolphin birth.
Back to the dolphin birth, yeah.
So the babies, you could notice a big difference in how they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared, because I've seen hospital births, I've seen water births, in hospital, I've seen water births at home, and then this was like another layer of our dream birth, ideal birth. My kids were born, they had a lot of prenatal swimming with the dolphins, and they grew up swimming with the dolphins, on the boat. So they had all that, and they were born in water above Kealakekua Bay, where we lived at the time. And so when they came out, I just couldn't believe that, 6 months before the kids were born, the Dalai Lama came into a dream and said, "You're going to have Toku, a real incarnated master." Because most of the Tokus, when they're born, they're taken away from their families, right? And I said, "Please don't take them away." But I knew they were special, and so my kids carry those frequencies. They're just an amazing twins, boy and a girl. Their minds are brilliant, just totally open, free, and, totally connected to the esoteric and everything that's going on this planet and beyond. They're interested in. And it's so beautiful to see.
Is there anything you'd like to share with everybody to conclude the time with us here?
Well, just that, you never say it too much. We carry everything within us, right? And it's all accessible. You just have to open your eyes and your ears to the inner being that's going on all the time. And, there's beings that are here, seen and unseen, to help us, to answer our prayers, to help us evolve. And so that's the most important thing, It's like just that whale consciousness, that big consciousness, that big being that is in us, right? The word for humpback whale is Megaptera novangelis, right? Which I translated, Megaptera means long, giant wing. And novangelis is like, the whalers in New England claim that was come from New England, but I call them new angels, right? They're the angelic realm here. So, yeah, and their song carries around the whole planet, right? And used to. Now with all the pollution it doesn't, but, they still communicate over the whole ocean from Japan and here and there, just through their song, through the frequencies. They're singing all the same song at the end of the season. It's a living library begins each season anew, right? So it's like, every day is a fresh new day to connect with that being who we are. And, so in meditation, you can connect with the whales and dolphins just as easily, and carry that with you. And so that's what I would like to leave you with.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for your work, because I know you're doing just that too.
Yeah, we're having, it's almost like the same message, but through different mouths. But it's beautiful to hear everything that you're sharing and all of your wisdom and everything you experienced in the last 30 or 40 years. It's really, really amazing. And if anybody coming to the Big Island would like to find you and go out on a boat with you, is that possible?
Sure it is. My website is one word, Dolphin-Assisted.com.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bless you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Samasta loka Shukino bhavantu. Samasta loka Shukino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.